Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. That works. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer, except it's Start the Week with Morgan and Colleen. um, so, for those of you who don't know me, I am Spencer Doman's younger sister, and but I'm also on the staff at the institutes at Doman International. And yeah, I do cognitive development, but my background is I'm a life coach. So I also love to combine mental health and emotional health along with everything that we teach with the Doman Method. So that's kind of my background. We have amazing questions today. Colleen, do you want to say anything before we get started?
Yeah, I really had a fun time last week, even though my internet went out at one point, uh, talking to everyone, and I have seen the list of questions that I'm excited about too. Just in case anybody notices a mark on my forehead, it looks so much worse than it is, but I have a young cat who launched herself off of my forehead in the middle of the night when I was asleep. It was a fun time, so everything's fine.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we're glad you're okay and you made
Thank
it through. Awesome. Okay, let me get Colleen. Should we start with our kind of what we wanted to talk about, or the questions?
Typically, I think that's a good idea because we have all these nice questions, which are great to get to, but it gives people a little time to get in also. I feel like not everybody is here right at the dot of 11,
Exactly.
so
Awesome.
we can chat a bit.
Great. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, since for those of you who don't know me at all, I did this program when I was a child. I had a lot of developmental delays. My reading was so behind. I had big memory issues, and so I did this intensive program with my mother, and a little bit with my dad. Growing up, so I know both sides, both the programming side and doing it with the child, but also being the kid. So I love to bring that perspective to any question that I answer. And one of the biggest questions, and I think really the biggest myth about the Doman method in general, is it's a lot of work and it's going to break your family. And if you want to do this, you have to dedicate everything to it, and it has to be 100% perfect. And for me, nothing could be further from the truth. And Colleen, I'd love to hear your perspective because you also grew up with this program. But for me, the program is, and this is something my grandfather, Glenn Doman, used to hone a lot, is that it should be joyous. It should be fun. For a child under the age of 6, they shouldn't even know they're doing a program. After 6, okay, they're kind of gonna know, but then they should have fun. It should be exciting. There should be fun rewards. And then for teenagers and adults, honestly, you need their buy-in. You need them on board with you. So wherever your child's age is, it should be fun. It should be light, and I know that's not always easy to bring. There can be this but we have to get it done today. But I find that the mothers who just have a light easiness to the program, and fathers, by the way, they just tend to enjoy the program. They tend to come back to it over and over again. And they get to see those long-term results that take a long time. There are some results that, getting a child from immobility to mobility, from no speech to talking, those big milestones take time. And I think when parents come to it with a lightheartedness and okay, we're going to do this and have fun, it's just so much easier. It's just so much easier. How do you feel about it, Colleen?
I completely agree. I think that, and some of this is actually from my own experience, not only as a kid, but also as a mom. In recognizing where I might even have put more pressure on myself than needed to be. And my daughter is, neurotypical. So we were just doing a well kid program. But even with that, I had a certain set of standards in my head. And I still sometimes find that happening, where I think we all do. We're like, oh, we should have done this. We should have done that. Could have gotten so much more done. But it's not, that's not life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not life. You have goals, you have daily goals, you have big, longer term goals, but it's not like you get to the end of the day and you're like, we did all the things, so now we're great, we're in great shape. It's like, no, we did all the things, that's great, but if we did them like, you know, gritted teeth, kind of miserable through the day, is that how we want to live? So I think looking at it more as a way of life and a parenting philosophy that includes a lot of little how-tos, but just a general sort of, this is how we live our life. And as you were saying, when you have very young kids under 6 years old, if this is just their life, then they don't know any different. That was definitely my experience as a kid, and it was so much fun. And my parents were having fun too, even though there was so much preparation work. But my sister, they actually did a pretty intensive program for my sister. We all got the benefit of it, but she was having some developmental delays when they first found out about it. And they didn't realize it at the time. And I've told a lot of people this. She was 3. And, they explained a lot of things away because that's what you do when you don't have the context. And you're like, oh, she doesn't really talk because she's only 3 and her older sister does all the talking, right? Oh, she's a little bit uncoordinated because she'll grow out of it. All these little things. But as soon as they had the information, they were like, oh, no, this indicates a bigger issue that we now can do something about, which was very empowering. But then it just became our whole life, and it was a natural. I mean, it wasn't natural for my parents to kind of upend everything in that way, but they did it gradually, and then it just became our life, and so it was normal. It's just normal.
Yeah, and it's fun, for kids,
Yeah.
like getting your parents' attention, doing fun activities, like for them, it's a win-win. Like they're, most kids aren't going to have a big issue with it. Now, of course, every child's different, and some kids, some things are very uncomfortable or hard for them. But we always, and this is one of the number one things parents love to like completely not listen to, is we always believe in starting everything on a very easy gradient, right? Like people are always shocked when I do. Sometimes I have the fortune of getting to go to families' homes and actually doing the program with them. And the first day I'm there, like I'll only usually do about an hour of program max. Like that's max because we have to build up slowly. And parents are always like shocked that I'm not doing like 8 hours with them. I'm like, we can't do that to your child. We can't do that to you. When we build up gradually, it actually means that it becomes so much easier, when we're just adding it. That's always what I say to parents who feel very overwhelmed. It's like, okay, stop. Just add one new thing a week even. Like you don't even need to add like multiple things a day. Just add one new thing a week. Become an expert at it and then move on to the next. So I think there is this myth out there, but at the end of the day, we aren't actually pro at breaking you or your family. We actually want this to change your family's life for the better, because the truth of the matter is having a child with special needs, with any kind of cognitive physical delay, right? It is so hard on a family. Like we have to think about the other side. Like when a child's not getting better and they're not improving, and we have a question about this a little later, but I think that's so hard, and it's actually a lot easier to be doing something about it than not doing something about it for most of our families,
Definitely.
And so it's one step at a time. We're not here to break or overwhelm your family. We want you to we want this to revitalize your entire family and not be a big burden or anything like that. So all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing we kind of were talking about was how can Doman help you streamline, giving you like a team to rely on and a staff coach that's going to be like your person. Like really, staff coaches, for anyone who don't know, when you come for an appointment at Doman International, you get assigned a staff coach. And that person is like your primary contact. They know everything about you and your family and your child. They're going to answer any questions. My mother has been a staff coach, I don't know for how long, my entire life and longer. And, a big part of my childhood was sometimes mom saying, "Hey guys, I got to take a call," because she'd have a family whose child just had like a massive seizure, or, a family's child had to go to the hospital. And it was always, an honor for her to be able to support that family through those processes. So that's the kind of thing a staff coach does, as well as just like answer mundane questions for you and know your child inside and out. But yeah, I would love to hear though, Colleen, when it comes to like streamlining, what does that mean to you? Like, how do you like to help parents like streamline everything?
Well, talking to families, having the privilege of talking to families from all over the world, everybody's doing a lot of different things. It's very rare that I talk to a parent who hasn't yet started any other kinds of therapies for their kid. And so everybody is really, really busy. And part of this, like what you were talking about in terms of the family, and what we were saying about like a parenting philosophy, we can help families to streamline their life too, so that it isn't a series of running around to all of these different therapy appointments. Because I tell parents, obviously, we will do whatever we feel we need to do for our kids, and if that means we're out at 3 therapy appointments per day and they're all in different directions, so half the time we're in the car, half the time we're at the therapy, we'll do it if we feel like it's getting something for our kid. But it takes a big toll on the family, and if you have other kids, on your spouse, whoever, whatever your support structure is. And if you can avoid that, or if you can cut back on it and just sort of have everything centralized at home, so that not only are you addressing every area of your child's development and all of their needs in one connected like cycle of program activities, but you're also not running around like a crazy person every day or every other day. That can, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have my life back. Like we can make a play date. We can get dinner together before 8 p.m. Like, it's a really nice, it's just a complete change of life. And I think that's where, parents are trying everything that they possibly can to get the answers for their kids, and having it all in one place, and knowing that your staff coach and the team have your back is where I think the big, huge value comes in.
I totally agree. And what came to my mind too was I kind of actually think this is kind of a parenting thing or trend, even like right now, not just in the special needs community, but like in parenting in general, where it's like kids are signed up for like a million different things, and parents, moms talking about how they feel more like a chauffeur than a mother. And I think that, there's always a balance, I think sometimes you really want your child to learn that new skill. And so taking them, to something is a good idea. But at the same time, I think the biggest enemy for any child with brain injury is time. And so when we're going to all these different things and we don't even know what's getting us the results, because I think a lot of moms and dads are scared to stop something because they're like, what if that's the thing getting results? And so if that's the case, I always say stop things slowly. Like, it may not be a good idea to go cold turkey. You can always stop slowly and go, let's just stop this, Like, I remember there was this mom, she's incredible. She's on the program with her children. And she was taking them to horseback riding lessons once a week. And she asked me, she's like, I'm thinking about stopping them. And I said, why are you thinking about it? And she goes, well, part of me knows they really love it. Like, they enjoy the horses and all of that. She's also a horse rider. But she's like, at the same time, though, it's such a production. It takes all afternoon and it's exhausting. Like, they come back exhausted. And I said, well, here, think about it like this. They can horseback ride in the future, like this isn't a no to horseback riding for life, right? It can just be like, let's pause for now and see how it goes. So I often also don't think so much black and white thinking, just go, let's just try it. Like, let's just try not going to PT, or let's just try not going to this because we don't really think it's working or helping. And I'll just say, so if your child doesn't love something, that's another indication that maybe, they shouldn't go. If they come back overly exhausted, that's another indication that's probably not great for their nervous system and not great for their growth. But again, you have to make these decisions, but just think about it. Okay, let's just try it. Let's make an experiment here and just see how it goes.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. In the Suzuki Method tradition, Suzuki Method, for those of you who haven't heard of it, I'm a trained Suzuki Method violin teacher, and Dr. Suzuki's ideas were very close to Glenn's. They actually met. They were like really good friends. They were like, "Oh, I get you, I get you." But in terms of child development, Dr. Suzuki said that children are natural beings. They don't fake interest. They don't fake enthusiasm unless we make them, So I think that's, you can take it as a real indication if your child is completely worn out by something, not like a good clean run if they run, or like a good, crawling session or something, but we went to the therapy and they are just decimated afterwards. Or maybe sometimes parents will say, "Oh, every time I say it's time to go to this therapy, my kid starts crying immediately," and even if they don't have words yet, they're crying like, "Ooh, no." And you got to look at that and say, okay, where is this emotion coming from, and is it productive enough for us to have to push through that every single time?
Yes.
If it's one time, it's like, well, maybe you're not feeling well today, okay, but yeah, if it's I think you have a really good point about their emotional state having a big impact on their overall growth and development and health. And I think that tends to get pushed aside, and it really shouldn't. If you have to be constantly forcing yourself to do things, forcing your kid to do them, then something is out of balance. We got to look at that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to anyone who's just joining us, just to kind of reintroduce, my name is Morgan Doman. I'm Spencer's sister, and I'm here filling in for him today, along with the great Colleen. And we're here talking about more of the emotional, mental side of the program, because I'm a life coach and that's my background. And if you have any follow-up questions to what we're talking about, please write them in the chat. We will see them. We'd love to answer them live. That's like my favorite thing. Okay. And so the last thing, the last talking point I really wanted to bring up was moms who are feeling like super overwhelmed. I think we have two sets of moms that I'm going to talk about. One are moms who feel overwhelmed. They really want to start the Doman method, but they're like, oh my God, we already have a million things going on. How am I going to fit this in? Or maybe they're a full-time working mom and they don't know how they're going to fit this in. Like, there's so many things that could feel heavy and hard. So Colleen, what do you recommend to moms who are just starting off and struggle, or they're thinking about it? They haven't even started. They're just thinking about it and they're just not sure, like, do I have the capacity for this?
Well, the first thing I recommend to parents is to come to this session, actually, since we do it every week, because I've said that, you can ask questions, whether it's Spencer hosting or another staff member, and, all of our staff have such depth of experience and can really encourage. The fact is that if you are feeling overwhelmed in whether because you haven't started a program yet and you're trying to figure out if you can, or you're feeling overwhelmed maybe with other things coming in and sort of encroaching on your program, our staff are your biggest supporters and can really give you insight based on their years and years of experience. Because every family teaches us something, every kid teaches us something, but the fact is our staff have tons of experience and perspective. So you're not alone. It's really important to recognize you're not alone. Lots of parents are dealing with the same thing, and our staff have worked with a lot of them and can help you to, maybe zero in on, like, what's the thing that's really holding you back. We're not going to tell you, oh, you really just got to quit your job. I mean, like, that's not realistic, or even, oh, you've got to pull your kid out of school, otherwise nobody's going to be happy. It's like, look, some parents come to that conclusion. They say, I'm going to pull my kid out of school for a year because it's the right thing for us, and that's fine. And then other parents are like, I don't want to do that. There's no way I can do it. Everybody's got a different situation. And our team is here not to try to fit you into a mold, but instead to say, all right, what is the terrain that we're working with that's yours and yours alone, and how can we help you to feel, like you're gaining some ground, and just not as overwhelmed with everything. But
Yes,
yeah, even
yeah.
for families, I think who, well, especially, I actually had a conversation with a mom a couple weeks ago, and I told her, because she said, I heard about this. I've been looking at it for almost a year. I have friends who are doing it. They're doing great. She's like, but my job is really demanding and I can't quit it right now. And I'm just worried that if we, come to work with you, like, I'm just going to have this plan that's just not realistic for me. And then I'm just going to feel worse. And I said, in fact, a parent who is working like that needs the staff more than anybody, because you can't cobble it together on your own. You need an outside perspective to help to look at the big picture and say, okay, you've got 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. We could do something with those 10 minutes. We're going to start there, and it's going to be, you're going to feel like you're getting somewhere and you're not just hammering away at the same old and not feeling good about it. So that's my feeling personally. That's what
Couldn't
we're here for.
couldn't agree with you more, because one of the big things when we have our big, team meeting every week, when we actually program every child that's in for appointment that week, one of the first questions we always look at is like, what is this family's capacity? Because obviously every family has a different capacity. Some families, it's only child, no school, mom's home all day. Okay, that's a different capacity than, an older child who has to be in high school or something, So we always look at capacity and then we go, okay, these are the priorities. And really, I actually think that prioritization is really, it's so important, because it can be, I think when you want to do everything, it's a great feeling and it's a great thing, but at the same time, like, you don't have 50 hours in a day. So we need to make sure that everything that's happening is priority for your child and what's really going to make the biggest impact to see those results. Because at the end of the day, we want to see results. We don't want someone doing the Doman program and not seeing any results and the child not changing developmentally. That's not our goal. We don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. So I think it's so important to, I think a lot of the times overwhelm comes from not having a focus. You're trying to do everything. So focusing in on one thing at a time can really help kind of combat that. So yeah, I think that's such a good point.
Okay. Yeah, when you're in it, it's so hard to really have perspective.
Yeah.
And so having that outsider who cares and has all of this experience and can look at your situation and have that conversation with you. Like, if you say, there's no way I can do that, the staff are going to say, okay, cool, let's dial it back, let's see what we can do. That's all right.
Yeah.
They're endlessly creative too. I mean, I'm not a clinic staff member, but I'm always amazed by how creative our staff are when it comes to helping families find solutions for their kids. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so I think we're ready to we have questions that were pre-submitted, so we are going to answer them. But anyone who is live, please feel free to write in the chat. We would love to get your, your thoughts on what we're talking about. And also, if you have additional questions, we're happy to answer those. So I just love this question. I just love it. Okay, here we go. My 4-year-old daughter has mild cerebral palsy and mild seizures. We've been going through medication and therapy for the last 3.5 years. Although there's been some development, we're greedy for faster development. And I just thought this use of the term greedy was so fantastic, because good. Thank God you are greedy, because that's what's going to help your child get better. Be greedy in this context. It's totally good. It's great. I think every parent should be greedy for results. And if things aren't getting you results, get out of there. So what I'll say is, your child's young. That's good. When you say mild cerebral palsy, it's a little bit hard to know. Does that mean like this child is walking but not so well, or is this child just has super, is this child mobile? I don't know from the context of the question, but what I will say is this: if you are greedy for better, faster development, then it sounds like you're in perfect alignment with what we do, because we also are greedy for faster development with every single child, especially with seizures and, seizure medications. That is a big topic for us, and we have doctors who specialize in helping with this. So I can't recommend enough getting in contact with Colleen. I bet your child's super smart. I have a feeling this little girl is super, super smart. So we also want to be looking at reading. Is your child reading? Can they communicate with you? Because even a 4-year-old needs to be able to do that. So that would be also some things, along with all the other great things for her mobility and seizures. So I can't recommend enough to you to reach out to Colleen, because I feel like you're in a perfect moment for this. You didn't ask a specific question about what to do, so I'm just going to tell you to get in touch with Colleen, because I love that you're greedy, and I think the world is probably going to tell you your child's going to go at their own pace and don't expect too much. I hate that so much, because I think parents should expect that their child see results, especially if they're putting in a lot of time and effort with different therapies. So reach out to us. I feel like you're in that perfect moment now to do that. Any thoughts there, Colleen?
No, I think you covered it. And, for families who are looking for that kind of guidance and that kind of a huge, kind of rocket fuel for your program, coming, talking to me and potentially coming for an appointment is definitely the best way. So we would love to see you.
And also with a 4-year-old, doing a mobility program with a 4-year-old is so much easier than a 10-year-old. Not that you can't, but it's just easier because the child's smaller. So now is the moment too, right? Now is the moment before the child has to start school and all of that. So, Colleen, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested?
So actually the easiest way for a lot of you would be to send us a direct message through Facebook or Instagram, just because I get all of those, so I can answer you easily. But also my email address is info at domaninternational.org, and my phone number is 814-232-8668, and that's country code 1. So you can WhatsApp me on that number. I have Telegram on that number as well. You can text me if you're in the US. But yeah, these are my direct contacts. But any messages that you send, or if you go to our website and fill out the contact form, those also all come directly to me. We're kind of a small team, so if I don't see it, then one of the other reps gets it. But I see all of them, so there's kind of all roads lead to me when it comes to contact.
I'm sending out a message now to everyone. So
okay, great, thank you.
All right, there we go. Okay, amazing. So next question is, my 7-year-old slow learner gets disturbed if somebody says stop or shh or move or keep quiet. What can be the reason for this? It's hard for me to know exactly for your child, but I'll give you some possible reasons. So, you can kind of apply what you think is best. And also those listening can also apply that to your child. So first of all, sometimes a child who has hypersensitivity to sounds, things like shh or loud speak can be very frustrating to them, because it's what they're hearing is very chaotic. For example, a lot of kids who have hypersensitivity to sounds, if they finish something and you go, yay, and you scream and clap really loudly, they get very upset, because what they're hearing is 10 times louder than how loud you're being, or what, we don't know exactly what chaos is going into their ears and what they're actually hearing, but it's upsetting for them. So that could be the first thing. It could be, in terms of brain development, it could be a hypersensitivity to sound. The other side, and I would say this because your child's 7 and a slow learner, as someone who was also a slow learner, I will say it is so frustrating to know, because by 7 he probably knows now, like, he's behind. Um, that, you know, you aren't necessarily able to do things at the pace of what other people can do. And so when you're given a directive like keep quiet or move faster, and you literally can't, it's so frustrating, right? And it's so upsetting. So it could be that as well. The other thing about a child, and this goes for every kid, we don't always know every experience they've had, when they're in school, they're with other people. He could just have a big button about this, It could just be like he doesn't like that, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a slow learner. And I'm sure there's plenty of neurotypical children who you say stop to and they get annoyed. So, it could be any of those. What I would recommend is, with the slow learning, if it is hypersensitivity to sound, definitely get in contact with us with some of our hearing programs. That could be really life-changing for him, and it could also really impact his ability to learn faster. A lot of children really struggle to learn because they actually have sensory issues. They don't actually have learning problems, or they have both, but the learning problem is compounded by the sensory issues. So it could be a lot of different things. We definitely want to get more oxygen to this child's brain to restore it. We definitely want to get this child moving, because that's definitely going to help. But I hope some of those things are helpful to you. Again, this is a general comment for everyone. It's very hard to sometimes answer these questions specifically because I don't know your child. But yeah, I think it's a great question, first of all. But yeah, it's probably somewhere along those lines. Anything else with that, Colleen?
No, I agree with you. And yeah, the reaction time can be a real challenge for, for a lot of kids, but certainly kids with special needs. And they also, you know, sometimes by the time they've gotten into something that they're doing, and then you're like, oh, we need to change, then it's just like a meltdown. Yeah, there are a lot of different strategies. Giving them a little more of a runway to understand, like, okay, we're going to be, even, it sounds so basic, but we have a lot of parents who teach their kids using like a timer, and they'll say, look, I'm going to put 3 minutes on the timer, and when this goes ding, we need to stop what we're doing, and then we have to get ready for our next thing. And it once they get used to that idea, it can be a lot easier for them to understand that need for transition. But like a physical reminder, this thing is going, and when it goes ding, we're going to stop and we're going to go on.
That's such a good point, because some children, due to their injury, have a really rough time understanding time concepts. Like, you can say 5 minutes to them, but they don't actually know what that means. I kind of have this with meters. If someone's like, oh, it's 10 meters, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea. So, it could be also that and the timer is such a brilliant thing, because it helps them start to learn what 5 minutes means, what 10 minutes means, and all of that. Yeah, that's such a good point. All right, here's a good question. I swear we didn't plant this question, but this is really for Colleen. But what exactly do we do as part of the Doman method, which is different from conventional therapy?
So, what do we do different?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like we're like, how much time you got?
When I talk to parents who because this question does come up in my phone calls pretty frequently. I think the biggest difference in terms of, it's really in terms of the approach, right? Our approach is not about addressing the symptoms, because you can't cure symptoms. You can ameliorate symptoms, right? You can work on making them a little bit better through trainings and things like that. But the fact is, if you're not addressing the root cause, then odds are those symptoms are just going to come back, or they'll change and become something else. So our approach starts with the evaluation, which gives us the exact picture based on your child's function of what is going on in their brain. So when we have that evaluation, and our evaluation tool is unique in the world. Glenn Doman developed it with his team. It is not something that is used by hospitals or doctors or anything like that. So, and it's rooted in functional medicine, and it gives us a really exact picture of your child's development and where their brain needs the most attention. So I think that's really, because we start from that place, that is what then colors everything else that we do. So, families I talk to, their kid gets a diagnosis, and then the specialist says, all right, so for this diagnosis, right, not for your kid, but for this diagnosis, we generally recommend PT, OT, speech, maybe some reading tutor, whatever. And then you start going through the rounds of all of those not connected things. And you're over here one day doing your PT, you're over here the next day doing your OT, but there's little, if any, contact between those therapists, and there's not a continuity of plan for your child. It's your kid has this diagnosis, we do the same. And the temptation is to say, well, that's the clearest way to deal with it, right? You go into the hospital, you've broken your leg, they take an x-ray, they determine what kind of fracture it is, and then they cast your leg, and then your leg heals. So when it's physical injury, I mean, I've got this scratch on my head from my cat. I washed the cut. I did first aid. I washed the cut. I put some antibacterial stuff on it. I don't have a Band-Aid that covers it in the right way, so I can't cover it, unfortunately. But, those little things, it feels like with brain injury or with special needs, like, wouldn't that be the way to approach it, right? But it just isn't. Like, get a diagnosis, get a treatment plan. But your kid's diagnosis isn't your kid, and it doesn't cover everything in any way. Like, it really doesn't. And I think most of our families who find us say that, the therapies that seem to make a little difference for some time either stopped making a difference or didn't get them far enough. And that was why they said something else has got to be out there. And the reason these therapies don't get you far enough is because there are gaps that are being missed. And you can only address them by first doing a full neurological functional evaluation. So it's, once you start learning about it, it becomes so clear. You're going to say, this makes perfect sense. It all fits, and I can see it in my child. So I think that confidence too helps parents to move forward with it. But that's really how we're different, is that we start with that, and then we go from there for your kid, not the kid with cerebral palsy sitting next to him who might be the same age, maybe even has the same name. Does not matter.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
No program is the same. And I think the other thing that really sets us apart is we really believe in the intelligence of your child. We don't, I had this incredible experience. I went into a typical therapy room with a boy who's on our program, but he also does a little bit of therapy, traditional therapy as well. And with me, he can communicate. He's able to read. He can communicate through facilitated communication, which is like a letter board. And he's in his teens. And it was, to me, when I look at a child with an injury to the brain, it does not impact their intelligence for me at all. I almost always assume that they're the smartest person in the room because they're forced to listen all the time. And with him, they didn't see him as a smart person. And so it didn't matter how many things he read in front of them or how many things he spelled out to communicate. They didn't believe it was happening. And so I really believe that every child is super intelligent, and they're all just stuck in a body and a brain that's not working yet. And so we just have to get that brain working, and they'll come through. They'll come out. And watching a child on the program over a year or two, and you get to see their personalities start to come through even more, and they're joking with you on communication boards. It's just incredible. So I think a big part for us is looking at the child holistically, the whole child. Our medical team, in every other setting, medical team is in charge, and our medical team is in charge. But at the same time, we don't do something in one department that the other departments aren't on board with. We're all cohesively looking at a child, from a team point of view, because every child's holistic, and we look at the whole child. They don't get a number. It's all about them. So yeah. I love that question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
So to anyone who's here with us live, feel free to write your question. We have here one, Sumaya. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I am from Denmark. My son is 19 months and he has seizures and developmental delays. I don't see a specific question. So if you have a specific question, feel free to write it and we'll answer it. But what I will say is, seizures are a big deal. They're very scary, especially in a 19-month-old. When it comes to seizures, we look at it through a brain perspective. So we're always trying to get more oxygen to the brain to help decrease those seizures, because that's what a seizure is. A seizure is the body's trying to get more oxygen to the brain. So we give it more oxygen, and we see a lot of great things there. So definitely reach out to Colleen. Now is the time. 19 months is so young and such a great time to start the program. So that's really fantastic. And if you're from Denmark, we have a ton of resources in Europe. We'll be in Italy in April and July. And I'll be in Norway, not Denmark, but it's pretty close. Any other thoughts there, Colleen?
No, I think that's exactly the right thing. That if he has seizures and developmental delays now, it's a great time to start. We have a ton of experience. Seizures specifically, I think I'm almost 50 years old, and I have had
what?
I'll be 50 this year in September, so a little ways to go. But my whole life obviously has had something to do with the Doman Method here and there. But it's interesting to me as I've gotten older and learned more about what's out there, the options out there for families, particularly for kids who are having seizures. I really believe that our staff have the most comprehensive understanding of seizures possibly in the world. What causes them, how to address it, how to help kids get. And I'm not saying we have all the answers, but the thing is we have such a base of knowledge, and we can get so many kids so far in terms of reducing or even eliminating their seizures. And even where we have still maybe struggling, because every kid is different, and some kids are really, really tough, and seizures are hard. We have resources. We are always looking for new information and new developments. We're always talking to people who are doing great work. And this is to be clear, we are drug-free. So if your child is on medication for seizures, we're not going to tell you to go cold turkey. We do not do that ever. But what we seek to do is, through a complete program of neurological development, we look to reduce or even eliminate what's causing those seizures to happen, because it is neurological. And then gradually, through working carefully with our team and your doctors, we can work to detox your kid from medicine. So because they just mask the symptoms, and they don't even do it all that well. So many families say, yeah, we went on this medication and the first week was great, and then suddenly back to seizures, and now they're saying maybe a little bit more medication, or we'll try a different one in addition. And I mean, parents in their gut are like, this is feeling very uncomfortable to me. I'm nervous. I don't want to keep on throwing more and more medications that may be contraindicated, and they're causing my kid is like drugged, and I'm not happy about that. And you shouldn't be happy about that. That is the right instinct. So, but obviously we need to help you address that root cause and get the seizures reducing, so so that your doctor then can, I'm sure your doctor doesn't want your kid to be on a ton of medicine either.
Yeah.
So little by little.
Here's a follow-up. Thank you, by the way. We're stuck with Vigabatrin and keto diet, but he's suffering from intestinal gas and also vision problems. I want to find a solution. I want an appointment ASAP. My question is, how do you work with national doctors from countries? They are pretty close here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So contact Colleen today. That's the first thing. But I will say, our team of doctors worldwide will work with any doctor. We have worked with the stingiest doctors. We've worked with the sweetest doctors. We will make it work. The other great thing is when you come for an appointment, our doctors will do a full physical on your child, and talk about our different programs. Diet is a huge one. Sometimes keto diet is right for seizures. Sometimes it's not. So we'll evaluate that from beginning to end. And before I pass this over to Colleen, I just want to say with vision problems, it is our most successful stat is getting kids seeing. If your child has vision problems, it is like our creme de la creme. It is such a great program. I can't recommend it enough. I actually got to give a seeing victory to a girl who's 5 years old about 2 weeks ago. And it was honestly like one of the best days ever for me, because getting to see a child who's blind. Now, I don't know if your son is blind, but getting to see a child who is blind and then start to see is really an incredible thing to witness for any human. So definitely, we will work with any doctor and make it work. We also have families from your country that, we will usually reach out to them and ask for advice as well, if that's helpful. So Colleen, I'm passing it over to you now.
Yeah, please get in touch with me. Send a direct message through Facebook or Instagram. Like I said, fill out the contact form online, because those come right to me, or email me or WhatsApp me. Because we can have a good conversation and get started as soon as possible. Yeah, it'll be great.
Love it.
Yeah, and we will help you with your doctor, because you're not alone. A lot of families are like, oh, my doctor's never going to go for this. So we can help. Our doctors are very good at speaking doctorese.
Yeah. All right. So we have another question here. I have a 5-year-old nonverbal son with autistic behaviors, among other issues. I just started to teach him how to read with your method. I wonder if this is the best way to start, if he might end up being a speller. And the answer is yes, he probably will end up being a speller, because to spell, you need to know how to read. So we have we really, our reading program is one thing, and then our spelling, typing, and writing programs are another, because they require different things. But to kind of move on to our spelling and writing and typing programs, you really do need to start with reading. Also, because reading improves language, it improves understanding. So it's really, really important to keep going. The answer is probably both. I know there's like this whole trend in the autism community about spellers, and that's great. But yeah, my guess is he'll probably end up spelling, since you're teaching him how to read. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And contact Colleen if you're interested in our spelling programs or our writing programs, because they're kind of more advanced. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Colleen?
No, I think that's it. Definitely, get him reading as soon as you can, because it's going to open up his whole life.
It really will. And the coolest thing about reading, especially the way we teach it with our method, is it often really impacts language. A lot of kids who start to learn through their visual pathways tend to be able to start speaking. And the other cool thing you can do is, once he's able to read and recognize words, you can ask him choices with those words. So you could say, okay, do you want to go to the playground, or you want to go to grandma's house, right? You can start asking, and then he gets to communicate with you about what he wants, which is really life-changing. I love that. All right. So, and we have another question that's very similar, so I'm just going to go into that now. But please, how best can I help my 4-year-old daughter to start communicating? The answer is reading. How to teach your baby to read is a great place to start, and then you can start communicating with them after that. communicating is a kind of a packed word because I don't know if you mean writing or speech. But also with speech, we're not just thinking about reading, we also have to look at respiration. We also have to look at mobility. We have to look at getting oxygen to the brain. So that's all things that we do at our appointment. We evaluate the child and then we say, okay, this is what we're going to do from a holistic point of view. Because one of the things that the conventional world wants you to believe is that if your child has speech problems, you should go to a speech therapist. But the truth is your child needs way more than a speech therapist. They need mobility, they need respiration, they need all kinds of different things. So yeah, I recommend. You can also read, and this is for both moms, Answering Autism is a great place to start as well. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Answering Autism is a great place to start. And the interesting thing about speech, and I've been learning so much more about it because Spencer has talked a lot about it. You know, it's of course it's top of a lot of parents' minds because so many families say to me, I know my kid is really smart. I can tell that he understands everything that I'm saying, whether or not he wants to pay attention to it. But I know if he could just, there's a block, right? There's something keeping him from being able to express himself verbally. And you're right. But Spencer has said there's like 8 to 12 different functions that go into producing speech. I mean, I tell parents all the time, the more I learn about it, the more I think that speech is a miracle. It's incredible that any of us can talk and fluently and say exactly what we, more or less what we mean to say when we mean to say it. So, it stands to reason that your child needs a holistic program, something that is going to be addressing for them specifically what are the areas where they're struggling so that everything can start working together. And that's why your speech therapy isn't working. And it's not because of you, and it's not because of your kid. It's not even because of the poor therapist. They're doing their best, but they're not able to address what your child needs specifically. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, we got a good live question here.
Oh, excellent. Oh, and Ashley is coming for an appointment.
Oh, amazing. Any specific part of the program that could help my 13-year-old who struggles with speech? I suspect ADHD. He has trouble with articulating his thoughts, no trouble with speech in and of itself. Yes, the answer is yes. Based on what you're saying to me, some of the things I would look at and that we would recommend, look at is diet is a big one. If a child's eating something that is creating inflammation, that can impact their ability to speak. Another thing could be respiration, getting them outside, mobility-wise. Sorry. Another thing could be doing different activities to organize their brain. Sometimes children, we say organize and disorganize because it's hard to describe it, but it's like things that are coming out of their mouths are just disorganized. Sometimes they say yes when they mean no, vice versa, and stuff like that. So yes, we have plenty of programs that I would also wonder, and this isn't the case always, but does your child have any kind of learning issue? Are they behind in school? Sometimes these things can come together. But since you are coming for an appointment, I mention it to the evaluators, and we'll talk.
Coming for her younger son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know that. Yeah.
You know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, older brother might be able to do parts of Truman's program and have a good time, and he's benefiting from it while being the helper. It could work out well.
Exactly. But what I mean is mention it to the staff because we will give recommendations to you. When it's a small issue like this, we'll say, hey, the 13-year-old needs to be doing this specifically with their little sibling or something. We're always about helping the whole family, and we have this a lot, by the way, where a more severely injured child comes and then parents go, yeah, he struggles with knowing how to summarize things. We homeschool, so I've always given extra time for schoolwork. Yeah, so that's kind of like it's like a disorganization is thoughts, right? So yeah, we can definitely recommend things more specifically once we meet you. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's yeah. Any thoughts, Colleen, that you want to add?
Um, when we teach you how to do the evaluation, you can also ask him to be a guinea pig for you, and I'm not saying like it depends how engaged he is with the idea of it.
Yeah.
Some kids are like, yeah, I've been struggling with this, and if this is something that'll help me, I'm fully on board.
Mhm.
Other kids, you have to be a little more gentle with it, and it's really great if you have the excuse of, I really want to do this, like I need to get better at doing this evaluation for your brother, so help me out. You know him best, but not saying don't tell him the truth. I'm just saying that these are ways you can sort of work around it depending on his personality and his mood. Because we never want to make, especially 13-year-old, that's hard. If you're not the kind of kid who's like, yep, definitely something's really bugging me and mom's going to get me the answer, it could be easier to be gentle. Like, okay, so all right, he's frustrated. Great. So tell him the cavalry is here. That's great. That's wonderful. That's awesome, because now he's going to be able to be a real partner with you in his own development. And 13 is, I mean, it's a mild issue. I hate the idea of mild issue, because something that affects your life in that way, which it really does, and you're struggling with, it's not mild. It changes things. It makes life hard. You don't want life to be hard. So, any harder than it has to be. Yeah, so that's
Absolutely.
wonderful, wonderful. So tell him that we definitely have answers for him. It's not going to be like a totally overnight thing that he has to do everything differently, but that he can work with us and get some answers.
And like I said at the beginning, with a 13-year-old, this is Ashley wrote to us. He told me he struggles, and it's frustrating, and so it's probably going to be easier to get him on board since he can
Yeah.
acknowledge that and he wants to fix it or handle it. But a 13-year-old needs to be on board. They need to buy in and understand the why. So I would even say, let your son watch some of the videos with you. Let him come to the evaluation so he can see what we're doing. um, I feel as he gets older, it's really affecting his social skills. Looking forward to our, yes. Yeah, because small issues become big issues when you're older. They can really affect your self-esteem, your confidence, your ability to show up and do what you want to do. Like, just to give you a small example, for me, like, I had huge reading problems. I love to read. I literally can't imagine my life now without being able to read. Like, I wouldn't be who I am. So, that's just a little example of how important it is. So I think we're at time. I'm sorry, everyone.
We are. Samia just sent
Oh, yeah.
another quick question.
Um, okay, so it's interesting. This is the day of siblings, I think. Has a 6-year-old boy who also has articulation and speech problems. He has these problems because he speaks Arabic and then started French, and now we moved to Denmark. Can we help him by following a reading program? The answer is yes. It could also be a respiration issue at his age. So I would talk to Colleen about it when you call her. And it's great that he speaks so many languages, by the way. That's only going to help him communicate.
Yes.
So yeah, it may feel like a problem, but it's probably actually helping him a lot. So
Yes.
speak to her more when you can talk with her.
Yeah. More languages are better.
Yeah.
Not worse. But I understand why, you might feel like it could be giving him a little issue in the
Yeah.
meantime, but yeah, so we can handle that. But yeah, more languages are better. Not worse.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it. I think for us, we're out of time. But thank you, Colleen, so much for being here today. I know I'm not Spencer, but I hope I was a good enough substitute today.
Absolutely spectacular. Yeah,
Awesome.
This was a lot of fun. I
Yes.
apologize though, they won't hear this, but there was a last button I was supposed to push to bring us live on Instagram, and I didn't. So we've been live on Facebook and YouTube, and I guess maybe we can put the link in bio or something for folks later.
It's
Apologies.
all right.
Yeah.
It happens. All right. Well, next week, I'm so excited. Same time, same place. I won't be here, but I think Colleen will be and Jagjit maybe.
Oh, that's right. I think next week is Mr. Mohan. No, that's the
Amazing.
following week.
Okay.
That's the following week. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, it's a surprise next week, guys.
Yay, surprise.
Have fun. And of course, contact Colleen with any questions. It was so nice to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, Morgan. All right. Bye.